Alright, let's check out what's going on with Bitcoin. First of all, shout out to everyone who's watching this video. It seems like you survived the mass capitulation event that happened yesterday. So for this video, as you can see, the selling volume yesterday was insane. And while in the lower time frames it seems like we're having a V-shaped recovery, I did want to talk about, for this video specifically, what's been going on in the past 24 hours, a couple of things that could potentially damper this being a bottom for Bitcoin, and also I want to show you what has historically happened going back through the past couple of years of data. I'm not going to go back since 2009, but we will show in the past couple of years what happens once you do put in these mass capitulation volume wicks to the downside. So let's jump right into the video. So for this, I'm only going to be considering volume candles that are equal in size or greater in magnitude than the volume candle that we saw yesterday. So let's jump right into the video. So the last time we had a big capitulation like this, you can see this was followed up with a decent amount of volume like we are seeing today. What happened? We had a 24% increase to the upside, came into your daily EMA ribbons before topping out. So I've noticed this is a theme. I would not be surprised if Bitcoin once again potentially came up, 24-25%, came into your EMA ribbons before one final flush out. And I'll talk about why I don't necessarily think we're just going to V-shape recovery and get out of here ASAP towards the end of the video. You can see the second most recent time we had a huge capitulation event to the downside. What actually happened, which is why I think we're going to do something like in this cycle, is we had huge capitulation event. It was bought up the next day by a huge amount of volume. You can see this rally took us all the way from 30,000 back up to 41,000 before we did roll down to take out the lows two more times. So this was a 37% increase after this capitulation volume came in. And I do think something like this is going to play out. I think when you look at these macro bottoms, this clearly wasn't a macro bottom because, we've rolled down lower, but this was the bottom. And these bottoms, they take time to play out. You don't just see, we come down to capitulation level, boom, we're out of here. I mean, I think we've only seen something like that once before, and you have to have unprecedented amounts of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So I think it is more likely we're going to break down, come up, and shake out the lows two more times, potentially doing a triple bottom before we do recover. I think something like this is going to play out in Bitcoin, where we do come down to 29,000. The second time we do come down, we do fill that, and then we could potentially make a higher low, something like a triple bottom structure, perhaps even something like this, an inverse head and shoulders coming down to 29, and then as you've got a higher low here, we'd have a perfect inverse head and shoulders, triple bottom structure, accumulation range into the lows. I really think something like this is very likely to play out. Could be wrong. My money is where my mouth is. I've been picking up Bitcoin at these levels, and I'll talk about that in a second. So these this last huge pump, this is slightly different to what we're seeing at this moment in time, because this pump that we saw here from this low of this capitulation wick soon went up to a 31% increase within the next couple of days. But the only difference in this data point to what we're looking at now is we've previously been looking at these wicks in mass capitulation events coming down into lower lows. However, this was a mass capitulation event in a bull run. So I do think this is kind of like an outlier. So I wouldn't necessarily be putting too much weight in those data points. I'm more interested in the capitulation wicks as we do break down into new lows, and it looks like we could be setting out for a bottoming structure. That is what I want to talk about predominantly in this video, but we are also going to include that data point as to not cherry pick the data. But like I said, in my opinion, that would be an anomaly. God damn, I can't pronounce it. Anomaly. It would be a data anomaly. Yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily consider that to be one of the data points that I think would be playing out. I think we're more in this type of situation slash this type of situation where we are putting in, a bear market bottoming pattern. And interestingly, what happened right here We had a huge capitulation event all the way down to 3,800, depending on what exchange you look at. I know some of the exchanges actually capitulated to the high 4,000 instead of, you know, like low or high 3,000s rather. So depends what exchange you're looking at, but this, you know, even if you only want to draw it up, you know, to the pump that we did a couple days later, I don't think we're going to do anything like this, because I do believe in diminishing returns. Obviously the market cap was $3,800 back then. It took a lot less volume to move the price up exponentially, but you can see this was a bottoming structure. This is more akin to what it looks like we're doing, at least today. It seems like we're having something like a very strong V-shaped recovery. But like I said, I'd be very surprised if Bitcoin did something like this again, and you know, that was it. So when I made my video yesterday and I talked about how Bitcoin is mathematically proven to be in a bear market, what I mean by that is really that these bear markets, from the bear market low, it can take a prolonged period of time. I mean, you can see here, this was the good part of a year's worth of data, and yes, we did go up higher. I highlighted that. I do think if we have bottom now on the logarithmic growth curve scale, then, you know, the bottom is pretty much in, or it is coming to be in, at 29,000. But then I don't think we're going to do this, you know, 100k by the end of the year like everyone is talking. I really do think it is probably going to be boring chop action to the side for somewhat of a prolonged period of time. But nonetheless, we're deviating from what we were talking about. We were talking about these huge capitulation events, and you can see this was a 164% rally. The next capitulation event we had was just a quick flush out before we really did start this this bullish uptrend, which once again, this is like a data point where we've broken bullish. So I'm more interested in these volume wicks in capitulation events. And once again, you can see here another capitulation event where we had huge influx in volume. We broke down, and before we actually did break down lower, we came down approximately about 6% before getting more of a rally to the upside, but we had a 33% pump before breaking back down and testing the lows. And this is once again another one of those, you know, bear market bottoms where we come back for something like a triple bottom structure, which is what I kind of think we're going to play out now. I really don't think, you know, a V-shaped recovery to 100,000 like a lot of the bulls maybe think we're going to do is necessarily what's going to happen on this capitulation event. This was the capitulation event of basically the all-time high. You can see before we did roll over, we had a 21% pump to the upside. Now I'm going to end the data points here as we are going into the last capitulation event, because like I said, these capitulation event bear market bottoms are really what I'm interested in looking at. And you can see this capitulation event, one thing to notice that deviates from what we're seeing today is there wasn't actually as much buying volume to buy up this dip as we are seeing today. So that is one thing to take into account. This is probably why we didn't bounce as hard, but we came up 13% before once again, you know, coming down. And did we? I can't necessarily see any bottoming structures, but it seems like we had like a angled double bottom pattern where you did come back and test that double trend line before getting out of it. So what is this video to entail? What do I take from these data points? Well, historically, it takes a while to form these bear market bottoms. I think this is really the only period in time where it just did not form, you know, a bottoming signal. We kind of just had that V-shaped recovery, and fair enough, if we do a V-shaped recovery, then so be it. But a lot of the time people think in these capitulation events, you know, we could be having a V-shaped recovery. I mean, look at this one. This was perfect V pretty much, and you can see there was V's within this pattern here. You know, you broke down, people were probably thinking, okay, we've made a higher low and now we're having a V-shaped recovery again. But these bottoms, they do take a prolonged period of time. So does this mean I'm bearish on Bitcoin? No, I'm more bullish on Bitcoin today and yesterday than I have been in the past couple of years, really, because when Bitcoin is down at these super cheap levels, you know, all of the greed exits the market. Everyone is panicking, everyone is fearful. This is when I want to pick up the paper hands bags, because, you know, as people are getting scared out of the market, as they're going into stable coins, This is when I'm here to sweep up the lows. And like I said, I really don't think it's going to be as simple as a lot of people think we're going to do. I don't think we're going to V-shape recovery, flip these EMA ribbons, and then it's all going to be a thing of the past. I think it's very much proven that these bottoms, they do take a prolonged period of time. You know, this bottom from where we bottomed here, this was, you know, 2 months worth of data traded while we were still in a bull run, and we've obviously broken below. We haven't actually taken out the low at 28,000, but we've double back tested this 29,800. So could the bottom already be in? Yes, it definitely could be in. Am I personally predicting that the bottom is in at this moment in time? I don't think so. I think, if anything, even if we don't form a new low, I think something like this, where we chop and then maybe hold 30,000 and then maybe 30,000 again, is likely. But my kind of take on this is, I do think we are going to chop up, down to the side for the next month or two before we do get out of this structure. And I previously said in yesterday's video that from a mathematical perspective at least, we are in a bear market. Does this mean that we're only going to see lower price targets for the next couple of years? That's not what I pointed out in the video. I actually highlighted, according to the Bitcoin logarithmic growth curves, the bottom is already in, meaning worst comes to worst, I think this bear market will just be boring sideways chop action up and down, but mainly in the upwards direction. So like I've been saying the past couple of videos, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I had buy orders placed at 30,000 and I had buy orders placed at 29,000 and 29.5. I didn't hit my buy orders at 29.5, I didn't hit them at 29, but I did accumulate a bunch of Bitcoin on the 30,000 buy orders last night. And I also posted in my Discord when the Bitcoin price was capitulating really hard. I posted that I was going to be picking up a ton of Bitcoin, and I did just that. My money is where my mouth is. I think now is a great opportunity to DCA into Bitcoin, but the dollar is still showing extreme strength, and the stock market has not opened, but we just had, you know, a brutal beating today. Coinbase earnings are meant to come out today after the market closed, so it's going to be another very interesting day. And I talked about this in what to expect for this week for crypto, but we've got a very big week ahead of ourselves, and I don't think we should just be, you know, sitting here on Tuesday and thinking, okay, the capitulation's done, we're going to V-shape recovery to 100,000. I think it's going to be a little bit more choppy than that and a little bit more boring. So that is all I've got for the Bitcoin video today. I hope you enjoy and found value in looking at all of these capitulation events and kind of sizing them up. I really do think we're in a scenario like this where for the next 2 months, you know, we're gonna get a lot of people very bullish as we come up for this big pump into the EMAs, but then we could very much come back down to these lows to fill them one more time before we do enter a bullish stance. So that's all I've got for Bitcoin today. Hope you found value in this. As always, cowboy out, not financial advice. Peace.